This is Roy Cannaday, and we're going to be taking a look at the Green Goblin Scenario Pack from Marvel Champions. Let's see what's inside. Alright, let's take a look at what you get here in the Green Goblin Scenario Pack here for Marvel Champions. Alright, so you have two different villains here, or bad guys that you can face off against. You have the Norman Osborn that switches into Green Goblin, and then you have the regular Green Goblin here. This is the Risky Business. We'll talk about that first, and then there's also the Mutagen formula that you can play. So this one's kind of interesting because there is a villain or bad guy that can flip back and forth. And the way this works is you have Norman Osborn. You'll start the game with him, and this is the hostile takeover thing here for Risky Business. So basically, you're going to be trying to take him out as he's switching back and forth in between Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin. So this makes it super interesting. Basically, you're going to have this Criminal Enterprise card that's going to come in with 2 infinity counters per number of players. And basically, instead of Norman Osborn taking any damage, you'll be taking counters off the Criminal Enterprises here. And as soon as Criminal Enterprises is done, you're going to flip it over, and he'll turn to Green Goblin. When Green Goblin's revealed, he's going to deal 3 indirect damage to a player in hero form, to each player in hero form. So you're trying to figure out how to flip this over when a certain number of players are maybe not in their hero form, so that way everybody doesn't take as much damage, but somebody's going to have to be in hero form to try to knock that out. Maybe you can figure out which form you want to be in and have an ally take out the last point of damage. But basically, Criminal Enterprises is going to, when it's done, this is going to flip over as well. So while he's in Green Goblin, you're going to have State of Madness. And then each time, you're going to put 2 counters on here per players. And then each time he would scheme, basically it says force interrupt when Green Goblin would scheme, remove 1 madness counter from State of Madness. And once this is empty, it's going to flip back over, and he's going to flip back to Norman Osborn. So he's going to be flipping back and forth, and this whole time you're trying to not have the hostile takeover scheme, or the hostile takeover, scheme go up too high, and then once that goes out, then it's going to go to the corporate acquisition scheme, and this is going to be going up 2 per player, which is pretty hard. I mean, it has 10 on it, so it takes a little bit for you to lose the game. But if that goes all the way out, you'll lose. And it's just this whole interesting dynamic of flipping back and forth with him. And of course, you beat the second one, and he gets a little bit stronger. And he'll hit you when he flips over for 4. If you're playing on expert mode, you'll have the level 3 here. When he flips over, he'll be hitting you for 4 damage to each player as well. And it's just like this whole State of Madness criminal thing. You're trying to figure out when's the right time to hit him, when's the right time not to. It's a very interesting the way the mechanic works as you're facing the businessman, but then also facing the Green Goblin at the same time. And figuring out what side you need your hero on based off of this stuff is pretty interesting. So that is the villain. Let's take a look a little bit in what comes in his deck. So this is the Risky Business one. Let's put that one out. So basically it has several different minions here. You have the Private Security Specialist. He has Guard. This is going to protect him from getting attacked. Of course, you put more infamy counters on Criminal Enterprise or remove madness counters. So Criminal Enterprise, you're trying to get rid of him so you can flip him over and attack. These you're trying to make it stay on there so that way he's in Green Goblin mode so you can actually hit him. So he's going to do the opposite of what you want when he comes out or gets boosted. And you have a whole bunch of those guys. Then there's Hired Guns, which are also going to be doing... you can either give boost cards or place infinity counters on the Criminal Enterprise. So once again, screwing up the whole Green Goblin aspect of this and Norman Osborn. A lot of this stuff has to do with him flipping back and forth. This plays 2 infamy counters on Criminal Enterprise if you cannot remove 2 madness counters from State of Madness. So you have a point where Green Goblin's out and you're fighting him and you're taking him down like you're supposed to, and then a card like this will come out and he'll switch back over to where it's Norman Osborn, and if he flips back over again, he's going to end up doing some damage to you, which is really annoying. But so you're trying to figure out how to min-max that whole Criminal Enterprise State of Madness card that's flipping back and forth. So that's all in a day's work. A bunch of those, which are going to be screwing it up and messing it up. Then, of course, side schemes that are going to, of course, make you draw more treachery cards, which are going to be annoying. And, once again, messing with the Criminal Enterprise and State of Madness. And then a lot more that does a lot more of the same stuff. And then the Treachery Mad Genius. Green Goblin attacks a hero with the fewest hit points remaining. That's how he knocks you out. Pretty messed up. And if he's in Norman Osborn, he'll discard the top card of your deck for each infamy counter on Criminal Enterprise. So he has different things that'll trigger based on which side you're currently facing. So definitely very interesting. Acts like the whole alter ego for the good guys, but this is one for the bad guy. So definitely a very interesting thing there. And then let's take a look at the mutagen formula version of Green Goblin. This is the other version of Green Goblin that you can face in this Green Goblin scenario pack. So he's pretty interesting too. He says, after Green Goblin attacks and damages you, place one threat on the main scheme. So you have your scheme here. And it starts with a couple on there, but it will go up one each. This says, when complete in player order, each player not engaged with Goblin minion must discard 3 cards from the encounter deck and put the first Goblin minion they discard this way into play, engage with them. And there are tons of Goblin minions in this deck, so you could end up with a bunch of bad guys on you fast. So he's going to be pushing this each time he actually deals damage to a hero. A lot of times you're going to want to be trying to take damage on your guys, so that way you're not having to hurt other things, but this is going to be pushing the threat up even further on this. So whether he's attacking you or he's scheming, he's going to be pushing this up. Then of course this is going to go X equal to the number of Goblin enemies, including the Green Goblin in play. So if you get a bunch of these guys out, you can't really ignore them, because if you get to Mutagen Cloud, it's going to push up much faster, even though it's 11 for it to flip. It'll go up X, but Green Goblin will always be in play, so he'll always go up at least 1 each time. So, interesting stuff there. And of course, it just gets stronger the more here. He's doing 2, and then he'll put it up 3, and then 2 again on, well, 2, 3. Depends on whether you're playing on expert mode or not. And then the hit point starts at 16, 18, if you're playing an expert, 20. So interesting stuff there. Let's take a look at the bad guys. Like I said, there's tons of Goblin minions in here. So first you have Goblin Thrall, which has Guard, and if the boost here is you just put him in play engaged with you. And the rulebook here does also state that if he comes into play engaged with you in that phase, he will also scheme or attack you. So he can jump on you real quick. So that guy is super threatening. You come with tons of those guys. And then there's Goblin Soldier. He says, when defeated, deal 1 damage to the engaged player. So you're kind of like tempted to leave these guys in play. But once again, a lot of the stuff have to do with a lot of these guys being in play, so you don't really want to leave them around. And also, boost, he comes into play engaged with you if he's drawn as the boost card. So 4 of those guys. Monsters. This guy's kind of interesting because he has 2 on his boost here, but if he boosts, he'll get shuffled back into the deck. So that way he'll come out again. And when he's revealed, he'll stun you. If you're already stunned, you take 2 damage. Goblin Knight. After he attacks you, discard 1 card from the encounter deck. If that card is a Goblin minion, put it into play, engage with you. There's a whole bunch of stuff in this, just brings out all of these Goblin minions all the time. He's got some cool little attachments here, which are very thematic. Pumpkin bombs and Goblin gliders, and I'll let you discover a lot of that different stuff on your own. And he's got some treacheries too, that of course are going to have a lot to do with boosting Goblin minions. And if you're an alter ego form, I'm not given a villain boost card for this activation, so it does a bunch of different things. And of course there's lots of side schemes which are going to do different things based off the number of Goblin minions in play, so they can overrun you really quickly if you don't keep them under control. Death from Above, when you're in alter ego form, he gets extra scheme. When you're in hero form, he gets extra attack equal to the villain's stage number. That's another interesting thing, is a lot of these will be based off whether he's in stage 1, 2, or 3. There's interesting stuff in this set which goes off of how far you are along in the game and what difficulty you're playing on. So yeah, lots of interesting treachery cards. Wicked Ambitions, discard X cards from the encounter deck, where X is equal to double the villain's stage number. Each time a Goblin minion is discarded this way, choose to either take 3 damage or put that minion in play engage with you. So if you're playing on Expert and you have to do X cards, so it means you'll have to draw 3 cards out and see how much damage you end up taking. Could be bad, could be good, depending on how the deck's set up. And the fact that it's mostly minions, that's what you get there. Both of these are supposed to be mixed together with the Goblin gimmicks here. This is going to be a set of cards that you mix in with the Green Goblins, but it also comes with other sets. It comes with 4 in total. You have the Goblin gimmicks, you have Scorpion stuff here, which is the mess of things. You have Electro, which is Power Drain there, and then you also have Tombstone, which is the Running Interference. So let's take a look at the Goblin gimmicks a little bit. So yeah, the pumpkin bombs are basically going to do 2 extra damage to you whenever he hits you, or you can spend 2 fight resources to discard this card. So this will be an attachment on him. You've got several of those, several more gliders, which are going to give him extra attack unless you spend energy. A lot of these are going to do additional boost cards and stuff, which will end up boosting up the villain when he's fighting you. And then this one's really interesting too, Regenerative Healing. The villain heals X damage where X is the number double the villain's stage. So if you're playing and he's gotten to a second stage, or if you started on your second stage, it would be healing 4 hit points. And if he can't heal, then it gains Surge. And then a boost on this, he just heals 2. So this is another one that kind of like, oh man, we were almost close to beating him. He's healing back up. Let's take a look at the Scorpion deck here. Has Scorpion out here. He has Quick Strike, of course, which is annoying because when he jumps out, he's immediately going to attack you. And he's attacking for 3. So he's really, really rough because he'll stun you as well. And then, of course, all different stuff. He has another Gang Up in here, so makes it so all the minions attack you. And he has just a bunch of stuff that stuns you. So this is one of the sets you could mix in there instead of having the Goblin gimmicks. You could also mix this in with Rhino, have a very thematic Scorpion and Rhino thing sort of going on. Then there's Electro. He's got lots of different stuff going on, making you discard 3 cards from the encounter deck when he boosts. And then he's got 6 hit points, which is pretty rough as well. And then just a bunch of different Electro-themed things as well. Make you discard cards from the encounter deck. In villain deck, he heals 1 damage for each boost icon, so he can Shock Therapy, heal himself up. And then Tombstone. Force response after Tombstone attacks and damages you. Discard a resource card from your hand of Fighting or Science, if able. So he's going to mess up your resource management there. And then lots of stuff that's just super interesting. A lot of Spider-Man themed villains here for your Green Goblin set. So as Green Goblin, let's take a look at what I think about it. So when I opened up this pack, I didn't realize there was going to be 2 different Green Goblins that you're going to be able to face off against that actually play very different. You would think like, oh man, it's the same sort of villain. Maybe it's different like aspects of that villain or different characters, but it's definitely interesting to play different ways. The whole Norman Osborn risky business of it flipping back and forth is definitely very interesting. It's like this whole dynamic of like, when do I hit him? When do I attack? When do I strike? When it's in the Norman Osborn thing, you're trying to keep those tokens down so that way you can actually hit and do damage, but you don't want him to flip over at the wrong time and do damage to too many people. So this whole aspect of like, do I punch him? Do I punch him now? Do I get in there? And it's a very interesting like way to play the game because it very much, the side he's on depends on what he's going to do, and the side you're on depends what he's going to do. So this whole aspect of like, I don't want to flip over because I spent this game so much in like hero mode the whole time, just that way he wouldn't be lowering his madness, but then I'm taking tons of damage. And I was playing this a lot with Captain America, so I was trying to figure out how to stun him so he's not doing as much damage back to me, but I didn't want him to flip back over because then he's going to jump and do damage to me again, and then a treachery would come out and he'd flip back over anyway. It's just this whole headache of him flipping back and forth in between both aspects, which I think is totally what Fantasy Flight was going for. It's definitely a ton of fun trying to figure out when to pull your punches and when to hit him as hard as you can. So definitely super fun with the risky business. The other Green Goblin scenario where the mutagen formula, where there's tons of different goblins going around, it's definitely cool to see those scenarios where there's lots and lots of minions and you're trying to figure out how to minimize the minions on the board so things don't combo out of control. Kind of like in the Ultron feel where there's all these Ultron drones coming out everywhere. This had these goblins coming out all over the place and things would get worse and worse if you let them build up. Definitely super interesting for that scenario. scenario as well, but it felt more like a traditional game of Marvel Champions where it's like, okay, I get to decide whether I'm going to be on that side or this side and flip over and try to combo my character the best I could. When you're playing with the Norman Osborn set, you have to like be very particular about what side your character is on. In this one, you can be like, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to rest, and then I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to do this to combo that and that and this. It's definitely very interesting to play through these two different ones. And then you have the other characters you can add in there too with the Electro and Scorpion, and it just adds way more replayability and way more flavor. I mean, this is like the perfect thing if you want to play, like if you're a Spider-Man player, like this feels like the set you need to like, I love playing with Spider-Man, I want to play with the Spider-Man bad guys, because it has lots of Spider-Man stuff in there. And you mix that in with Rhino too, and it's just like, oh man, it's a Spider-Man free-for-all fight against all these different bad guys. I think the way they've done this is pretty cool because it adds just more replayability. They've got the villain stuff separate from the hero stuff. You can just be like, I've played through the base game enough, now I need more characters to fight off against. This is exactly what this feels like. Because of the little rule book that like helps you out with any keywords or maybe the way that certain powers work on the different stuff. Nothing too complicated here, but definitely cool if there's any new keywords or things like that. But yeah, for me, Green Goblin Scenario Pack was definitely a welcome thing to come out because I really wanted more to play for this game and to be able to try out new stuff. So definitely, I'm sure they're going to be coming out with tons more of these things. I know they have ones in the future. So definitely super excited about it. So thumbs up for me for Goblin Scenario Pack. Definitely check it out. Thanks for watching the review, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.